Hey, good evening. This is Ken at Tortoise Capital, and I'm working with my good friend Jens Larson of the True Storytelling Institute and Old Friend Industries. And we're going to look at a framework for grafting, fusing creativity according to the Angus Fletcher model. It is a particular way to do creativity that employs storytelling and literature, and I'm gonna fuse that, integrate that with the true storytelling methods from the True Storytelling Institute. And what I find interesting, and maybe I'm the only person in the world that's seen both of these bodies of knowledge together that employ foundational elements of storytelling and narrative, and the synergy between them is so powerful that it is absolutely staggering. Uh, David Boge's my doctoral mentor for 15 years. I'm a postdoc researcher at the True Storytelling Institute. I'm certified in all their courses. Jens is my protectic coach, guide, business partner, and spiritual um, ally in everything. And on the other side of the storytelling world is the story science approach of Professor Angus Fletcher from The Ohio State University, which is the world's leading think tank on story science. Now, he's got degrees in neuroscience and literature, and what he does is puts people into MRI scanners, reads them different kinds of literature, observes the changes in brain chemistry and biology, and then is able to correlate different kinds of literature with different kinds of predictable brain responses. His research has taken him into treatment of PTSD and other things, but the most interesting thing for our purpose is the way he has been able to measurably improve creativity as measured by people in a profession with just a couple hours of standard treatment. It was so interesting that I've sponsoring a Army research project with him, and I asked him as part of that project to write a field guide to creativity with the Fletcher treatment for Army leaders, which he did in about a weekend. And it featured about 100 pages in a pamphlet sized book with 30 chapters. And each chapter has a very short reading that tells an interesting story from history about military experience, but which is easily understood by any adult. And then a couple experiential learning exercises. And it's brilliant. It resonates with Army leaders at every rank. It's so powerful that I believe that it's worth about $35 billion a year, because I think there's about a 3% improvement in problem solving with every Army leader that takes this on. And 3% of a $1 trillion annual budget makes it worth about $35 billion to the Army, which is why we're excited about it. I briefed my general officer, and he said, hey, that's not 3% compounded annually. In fact, that's 3% at the iteration cycle of innovation and problem solving. So, whenever two Army leaders get together and they're trying to solve a problem, if I can make each one of them 3% more productive because of improved creativity, then every time we have a transaction, we're having an opportunity to just get a little bit better at 3%. So it compounds dramatically. And 3% compounded annually is 35 billion. So if your cycle time for decision making and problem solving is daily or weekly, then the potential for organizational improvement is astronomical. So that's why the Army's interested in it. And we are distributing that handbook, that field guide, to 7,000 faculty members of Army University who collectively teach about 200,000 Army leaders every year. So we think that's pretty important. Now, it turns out from some other research that I've done that market traders of currencies, commodities, equities, options, futures, forex. The skill sets that they require to survive and then thrive in trading markets are almost identical to those employed by combat leaders. And so I'm exploring how to apply Fletcher creativity model that we use for the Army into the world of my clients, where for 35 years I've been teaching professional traders how to survive and then thrive in very dynamic world. So I've been doing that for 35 years. And I've been working with Boji and Larson for 15 years on their form of storytelling. And so the intersection of these three bodies of knowledge are staggeringly powerful and mutually reinforcing. So I've created a course called Creativity 202, the Fletcher Treatment for Traders, that incorporates those three bodies of knowledge. The Fletcher Treatment for Creativity in small bite-sized chunks. I've taken each of his 30 lessons and added a short exercise for traders that will stimulate their brain and make them see trading through a different lens. And I'm giving my students an opportunity to do that work individually at home and reflect on it, and then bring that homework with them each week to a true storytelling circle in which we are going to run a true storytelling circle that's based on safety, trust, truth, to bring out opportunities, and we're going to collaborate in that kind of a space. And this flashcard explains how that course is organized and how each of those 30 weekly sessions are going to be performed. And it illustrates an important way of appreciating true storytelling. You could study true storytelling by reading a book and listening to lectures on it, and that's learning about true storytelling. But in my experience of the last 3 years and hosting over 500 true storytelling circles, the genuine transformative power of true storytelling first becomes apparent when you sit in a true storytelling circle and you do true storytelling. In fact, you should do that before you ever even study it, so that you can be exposed to the powerful transformative energy that emerges from a collaborative circle that's based on true storytelling principles. Then some percentage of that population that gets that experience are going to want to learn more, and then it's appropriate to add theory to the practice. And this course illustrates why that's really powerful. So that's by way of introduction. So on the left-hand side, what I tell my students is that in order to be successful in this 30-week course, they have to generate 3 documents and prepare 3 documents. First, a dedicated learning journal that's going to record all of the individual aha moments, the surprise insights that are going to emerge from engaging on a weekly basis with Fletcher's creativity lesson, my trading lesson, and then the reflections that they're going to do to create a true storytelling, a story that they bring to the collaboration. And then in the collaboration, once they start exchanging stories and listening deeply, and then reflect on that, out of that collection of 4 experiences, Fletcher, trading, personal reflection, collaborative reflection with true storytelling, in that week, one of those things is going to create some kind of amazing insight. And the dedicating learning journal is an opportunity to just collect all those things for later processing so that you don't miss it. The second document is a dynamic prioritized master task list of all the actionable items that a person who's had those aha moments is going to commit to, usually in the form of a SMART goal, and it's a thing that they want to operationalize and act on. And it's going to be prioritized and periodically updated, so as you learn new things, it's not unusual to adjust your priorities. And then the third thing is a project management schedule that's going to take those actionable items, limit the work in progress to a couple of the most important things so that we can get to closure, build momentum, use the flywheel effect to have really transformative, powerful delivery of transformation. So they're going to set up those 3 forms. They're going to also identify a personal work in progress in order that they will have something to be working on when they do the creativity, when they do the reflection, when they do the true storytelling. It's all directed towards purposeful activity that is personally meaningful. So I ask them to have that in mind so that there's always raw material upon which to work. And that anchors all of these learnings into their personal lived experience. I tell them that they can take the course self-paced because all the lectures and the exercises are already done. And if they want to, they could blaze through there. But I really advise them to follow it systematically, one lesson a week. And I invite them to come to the collaboration. They may or may not want to do that. Traders are notoriously introverts and may be reluctant to share, but I'm trying to encourage them to experience the power of collaboration with other good people that are also traders. But because they're free people, you have to give them that opportunity. And I let them know that you don't have to master all of the insights from all 30 lessons to get it. You know, the power of transformation through creativity and true storytelling is such that it might just be one little story seed, one quiet day that blossoms and changes everything. I've seen it happen so many times. And so now with 30 weeks of learning, the probability of getting something amazing is almost a mathematical certainty. And unlike other workshops where you have to master all the material to finally get all the insights, these 30 lessons can be taken deliberately, like a walk through a beautiful park, and surprise moments that lock in something beautiful and meaningful and transformative. Any one of those little golden nugget insights could be easily worth the entire price of the workshop. So each lesson then, a total of 30 lessons, 30 weeks. There's a Fletcher element, a Fletcher treatment where they get a short reading, an experiential exercise, and they do a reflection. Then they get my treatment for traders. It's a short reading, an experiential exercise, and a reflection. They then think about both of those things, pick an aha moment with respect to applying it to their work in progress, and they bring a true story to the collaboration. We do the collaboration according to the agenda on the right-hand side, which I'm going to go through in a second. And in that collaboration, they're also likely to have an amazing experience. Those collaborations will be done using the 7 true storytelling principles that you see. It reinforces the atmosphere and ecosystem which is built on safety, produces trust, reveals the truth, and brings about opportunity. I also give them a couple other support courses from my library of pre-built courses on resilience and an elementary introduction to creativity for folks who have never really experienced any of that before, which is what our old school traditional approach to creativity for Army officers was until we saw the power of the Fletcher treatment. So on the left-hand side then is a course that employs the principles of true storytelling, has people doing true storytelling under my watchful guide, but it really gets them deep into the experience, and then it creates the possibility for an interest in more of the theory. Like, hey, I'm a leader in my organization. I really enjoyed this, and I want to know more about true storytelling so that I could take that back to my formal organization. So we provide a foundational course and maybe more theoretical instruction on how to do that. But it's important to note that they don't have to know much about true storytelling to begin to do it and then be exposed to its power. So on the right-hand side is how we're going to run the collaborative weekly session. The 0 week, I simply explain to them everything that you just heard. In fact, I'm going to let them hear this video so they'll get an appreciation for it. And then each week of the primary 30 weeks, one lesson a week, they're going to come into that scheduled place and time, walk into a foyer where what we call coffee talk to just kind of check in and how are you doing and what I'm going to dedicate my work this week to. We're going to strike a gong and take a moment to express and feel silently our gratitude and forgiveness for each other and for the work that we're about to do. We're going to have a statement of intention for that session, which is based on the story seed and the weekly lesson that was contained in the Fletcher and Long treatment. So it's kind of the focus that brought us there for that week. We will pick a first speaker to begin the large circle true storytelling, and I'm probably going to have a cohort of 20 people. I'm going to limit it to 20. I'll probably have multiple cohorts, but my spider sense is that about 20 people is the maximum you can reasonably process in 60 to 90 minutes and still keep it personal, intimate, and semi formal. So the first speaker will get us started with something amazing. We'll pick a couple more volunteers to share the true story that they bring to the circle in order to create some positive momentum in the large group. I will then organize them into small groups of 4 and give them 20 minutes to exchange 3-minute stories 4 times. That costs 12 minutes, and that leaves about 8 minutes for them to do a little bit of coffee talk and to appoint a small circle spokesperson who's going to come back to the large circle and testify on their behalf about the highlights that they experienced. So it's about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, where the small group exchanges their true stories and then gets to some kind of sense making that feels powerful. We then bring them back into the large circle. We'll do a 1-minute silent reflection. Then the spokesperson from each group will have about a minute to debrief the small group experience. I'll then strike another gong. There will be one more 1-minute silent reflection as we personally process these things, and then that will move us out of that circle, the sacred story space, into the foyer, where for about another 20 to 30 minutes we'll kind of cool down, talk it out, and whatever comes up comes up. As long as we're not telling anybody else's stories or trying to give too much advice. But we'll use the coffee talk to see where the conversation goes. And at 90 minutes strictly, we will bring that session to a close, remind folks of what next week's story seed is, and then we will take our official leave. I'll leave the room open for people that want to hang around. But what that gives us is a structured multi-phase approach to managing about 90 minutes and 20 people to get all the stories told, to hear them quickly, succinctly, but completely, to feel the feelings in a sacred space, and then have some places outside where we can talk a little bit about what we just experienced and then have a respect for people's time. So after they do that, then they are invited to do one more learning journal entry that brings together the entire week's reflections and learnings into a nice little package, gets them to closure for that week, and then the next week starts again. My experience has been that after about 4 sessions like that, magic will occur. Natural alliances will form, certain small groups will be found. People will begin to feel the safety and trust of that circle and really have a hunger to experience what it's like in that sacred story space, and then the momentum will really build. My expectation is that while the Fletcher treatment and my treatment for creativity will be really powerful individually and personally, that there will be much more insights, innovation, and transformation that occurs as a result of what gets talked about in the large and the small groups, in the collaboration, and then in the follow-through that accountability partners may engage in once they get going. So that is the structure for this workshop. I make a point of telling these folks who have taken workshops with me before and from others that this is going to be unlike any other workshop they've ever done, where it's fully immersive, fully participatory, only semi-planned, and that the experiential learning that emerges is what the real magic of the workshop is. And again, that they don't have to master all 30 lessons to get it. That the transformation will come usually by surprise from a small thing that just will persist and become really, really important once they start reflecting on it. So that is my uh, standard structure for taking a piece of content, in this case, creativity for traders, and then fusing it with the true storytelling operating system that allows us to bring together deep, personal, honest insights about whatever we happen to be talking about. In this case, it just happens to be creativity. My spider sense tells me that any technical material that you want to teach that has a social or human impact can be leveraged by approaching it in a true storytelling way. That the material will resonate deeply with people if they do individual work, come prepared with skin in the game, develop that collaborative small group learning. They become co creators of their own experience. And then as a teacher, you'll find that all you have to do is really just guide them through while respecting the boundaries of that. Of the story space, of the cognitive space, and especially with experienced um, adults, that the co-creation of their learning is what really makes this extraordinary. So if you're doing um, sustainability, deep listening, organizational change, leadership ethics, diversity, engagement, and inclusion, systems thinking, personal talent management, entrepreneurial thinking, whatever particular theme you're examining, my experience has been that the true storytelling fusion with that makes it an extraordinary learning experience for adults that can be a little jaded when it comes to corporate training or learning new things because they sort of know things already. The unleashing of the power of our creative brains and our narrative skills really sets people up for some powerful learning experiences. So I wanted to share that with you for this, and so thanks for listening to that.